In 3D printing, there's a lot of things you can add on to your printer, like filament, nozzles, build plates, not to mention all those upgrades that you can do. What about adding something to your 3D printing lab that is more like 3D printing adjacent? You know, something like maybe a laser engraver. Well, as you can see, I haven't opened this yet because I thought we would do it together. We'd take a look at it, I would run through some tests, show you some things as we go through, and just see how things go here, because I think you might be interested in how this works, at least from what I've seen online. And if you stick around to the end, I have a way that you can get one for yourself, a little bit cheaper than you might expect, or possibly even free. AlgoLaser's billing this DIY kit MK2 as a no-learning laser engraver, and while I think that may be a bit of hyperbole, they've still made it super easy for beginners to get going really quick and easy. As far as the price goes, you can purchase the machine all by itself, or you can pick up one of 3 additional kits. Now the 5-watt machine's $299, and this 10-watt is $399. Kits pack in a whole lot of different add-ons at a pretty decent discount. And just a reminder here to stick around, because I not only have a code to knock that price down even more, but a way you could possibly win a MK2 10-watt just like this one for free. Well, setting up the 10-watt machine was really easy using the manual, and only a few things in there left me confused for a moment, but then I realized I was just being pedantic. And if you need it or would rather use it, they do have a very well-rounded YouTube channel, and they've got a lot of assembly videos, tutorials, and a whole lot more. It's worth checking out. The specs on this machine are pretty amazing considering the price and everything they've done to make it really easy for beginners to use. The working area is a really healthy and decent 400 by 435 millimeters. The maximum expansion area with this add-on that you can purchase, that takes you up to 400 by 880 millimeters. Now, along with everything else you can use to control it, they made it super easy to connect to Lightburn and laser gerbil, however you say that, for those of us that want a more hands-on approach. The machine itself has a smart screen that, while it's not really like a smartphone, it is pretty smart and works just by touching it with your finger. And while I haven't needed it, it does have interruption recovery in the settings. There's also instant batch engraving. And you know, that's for those times when just one engraving won't do. And to help that all out, they have an estimated top end of up to 12,000 millimeters a minute for that engraving speed. There's also a lot of add-ons, like I mentioned, that extension kit will make it bigger. There's a rotary roller for cups and things, an enclosure, a honeycomb platform, air assist, universal razors to lift it up, and a smart hub to connect everything, along with that smart camera, and you could even upgrade this one to a 20-watt laser. Now, just to nerd out a little bit, one thing I noticed is there's a dual-core CPU in this machine. And while that may not mean a lot to some of you, and it's actually really small compared to my new PC with 20 cores, it's fairly massive for a machine like this. Well, I received the air assist and the enclosure in addition to the laser itself because I think those are 2 of the most important add-ons that you'll probably want and need. And I wanted to check them out and see if they work the way they're supposed to be, so you'll know if they're worth the extra price. The air assist was really easy to install, although the cables in there are a little worrisome. I did move some things around, as you see in there, and I velcroed that super long air cord for the air assist to the enclosure top, and that really helps a lot. Speaking of that enclosure, it really was a surprise to me when I took it out. This is probably the most well-made enclosure I've ever owned or even seen, at least outside of an all-metal one. It's super easy to set up and it just looks great. Another surprise I got was that clear plastic over the amber-colored window. That stuff's on there good. And along with that, just a side note, you'll notice I have a honeycomb base along with an exhaust fan that blows the air up and out of my window. Well, that's all stuff I already had, and I put it on here to keep the smoke mostly out of my office and also to protect the underneath with that honeycomb. You'll probably want to look into doing those things as well if you're somewhere inside your house. Well, next I want to give you a quick overview of getting this machine up and running. Not a tutorial, just going to touch on a few of the different points I think you should know. Well, first up, let's look at this control board that's attached to the engraver itself. They say on the website it's just like using a smartphone. Well, maybe a smartphone 10 years ago, but you get the point.
Science, a lot of science.
I've used laser engravers that just have all these dials and buttons and things on them. Even the ones with a screen still have a lot of buttons and dials. But not here. This is an actual touch screen, not the old resistive screens where you have to press really hard. This is a true capacitive touch. Looking around the different screens, I personally always take a look at settings first just to see what's what. And here, two things jumped out at me that I feel like I should mention. First, do a check for updated firmware. And yes, I had to do an update. And second, while you're in there, you might as well go ahead and run a self-test. Most of us with 3D printers know how to run those calibration tests, especially right out of the box, but this one's a little bit different just to make sure everything's running good. Both the firmware and self-tests will help you know you're getting the best that you can possibly get out of your new machine. Back in the main screen, let's look at projects. There's a lot of included pictures you can try out if you so desire, and we'll look at those later. Or you can upload your own stuff from your computer or just plug in a USB drive. They've given you the option of that standard normal big USB-A that we all know and hate, love. And then there's the wonderful USB-C. The MK2 supports files in a lot of different formats from what you might be used to on laser engravers if you've used them before. There's the obvious SVG files, but they also do JPEG, PNG, BMP, and even G-code should you have that available to you. The app comes for both iOS and Android, and it lets you connect your phone and laser to the same Wi-Fi setup. Once you're in, there's two modes that you'll find in your settings, Simple and Pro. And of course, Simple, that just lets you connect, have control of the laser's movements, and there's a big button on the screen called Carving, and then you have your engraving source to just get started. Makes it simple. The Pro mode is pretty much exactly the same, but it skips those first two big buttons and gives you smaller buttons with everything you need right there on that first home one screen. And that's my personal favorite setting. In the app still, the library has a lot of preloaded clip art as well, and the album pulls up pictures from your phone. You can type in text, you can create bar and QR codes, there's place to make puzzle pieces and more. You can even make a drawing on your phone and just engrave that. Well, after you get an image ready to print, engrave, yes, this feels very familiar. Once you're ready to engrave, there's a preview page with all the details. It has some pretty simple controls, and you can move the position of your image with your finger. And if the image is too big or too small, just enter in a size or use that little slider. The Configure tab at the bottom though, well, that really ups the complication game for us. The first thing I noticed was the laser name at the top. I don't have a 40-watt laser. So I clicked on the three dots there on the right and realized what was going on. They have all these presets, not just for their lasers, but for 37 different types of wood and materials you can engrave and cut for all their lasers as well. The pictures make it super easy to narrow down what you need, and then they have the names right there of the material, along with all the settings. It's pretty simple and a nearly foolproof way of getting started with learning how laser engravers work. And it's extremely cool. Now, okay, I'm not saying you can only do presets. If you want, you can just change all your settings without even looking at the presets. But if you do pick one, everything on the main configuration screen, that changes to match that preset. And then if you want, you can make your own changes as needed. From what I've seen, the presets are a little light on the engraving, but I'd rather have that than have it burn straight through my material. In case you're not familiar with laser engraving and cutting, there's a couple of terms you do need to know. Vectors when you want to cut into or all the way through your object. In this app, scans is equivalent to what some programs call fill, or you may know it as raster, and this is your engraving setting. So Don't mix up these two settings because your power and speed have a lot to do with both of these. Moving on to light burn, which is what I have, it's just as simple as everything else to connect to your laser. You can connect with the USB-C cable, grab the Lightburn profile on the support page with AlgoLaser, just import that into Lightburn and you're ready to go. And again, I'll have the link for that in the description. There is, almost literally speaking, tons of info out there to help you get going. The learning curve isn't too bad, but it does take some time getting used to all those controls. Well, the software and the controls, those are nice and all, but what we really want to see is what this thing can do, right? First, what materials can the DIY kit MK2 engrave and cut? Well, according to AlgoLaser, it can cut all kinds of woods, including plywood, MDF, cardboard, corrugated board, acrylic board, cork sheet, polycarbonate, Depron foam, non-woven fabric, bamboo chips, leather, and just as a reminder, no matter what laser you have, avoid any type of oily wood or wood with a very high resin content because there is a very real risk of fire. For engraving, you can also use those same types of woods that you can cut with. They also say that you can engrave on glass, ceramics, tiles, aluminum oxide, stainless steel, coating metal materials, and even dark stones. For those last items, from my experience, well, I'll just say you should look into it a good bit before you try it. You'll probably need to put some sort of coating on them to keep the laser from reflecting away instead of engraving.
I think I'll probably start with that laser eye surgery thing.
Now on the machine itself, under projects and then under the SD card, after I scroll down past all my test prints, which I can delete, there's a folder called Engraving Materials. Inside that folder, there's a lot of stock images they've included that are good for laser engraving. And the controls are really simple and straightforward, just like everything else. After you select the image, and I chose these gnomes, then I chose my material and I just let it go ahead and engrave. And while some are better than others, I just use stock settings on my testing cardboard. I want to say a little more about my testing material. Years ago on my first laser engraver, I learned that these corrugated cardboard boxes, they're actually good for more than just filling up your trash or recycling bins. You can just cut the flaps and sides into squares for testing out all your projects, or you can rip them apart like I do. Well, this way you can test out how things look, get everything aligned right, and so on. You might also find that it even works great for some of the projects themselves. I even printed out that tiger picture from the SD card, and this is on cardstock, and even though it took a couple of passes, I think it turned out great. Well, I also wanted to try out something a little more challenging. So I jumped on the AlgoLaser page and I found their page with all their free projects. These projects are a bit more complicated than I wanted to do right now, but I did like that cell phone holder chair. Just had to scale it down a little bit to make it fit in Lightburn, and printed it on poplar, birch. I don't really remember what this is. Well, I made sure everything was lined up on my blank and I hit start. And just for your information, AlgoLaser has an awesome reference page for all types of materials that I should have used for this. I'll have that link down below and I'll be sure to check it next time, hopefully, along with the focusing tool. Again, and here's a note to myself and you, do a materials test before using new materials. And you can do all of that in Lightburn. Now that materials test is something that looks kind of like this, and this is the one that I did for these sheets of basswood. It's so simple, even I can do it. Should do it next time, along with focusing. I also tried the puzzle maker in the app, and I just left it at 4 pieces, and then found this really odd picture of my son. He's holding a bust of himself that we scanned in and 3D printed. The files that they provide for us are pretty nice, but that's not even close to all the stuff that you can find online for free. And I'll leave some links in the description to a few places that I found. For any laser engraver, there are things that you do need to know and a couple that you'll physically need to have. The main thing to know, laser engravers are dangerous. They can blind in an instant, they can start fires, and in the right circumstances, they can even cause death. No, this isn't a TV commercial for a new medication.
You think you're funny?
As far as what I personally think you should have with your machine, well, here's my absolute minimum recommendations. First, invest in a nice home office sized fire extinguisher. And also get yourself a great pair of laser goggles. The ones that they send out seem to be okay, but if you're doing a lot of engraving and cutting, your eyes will thank you. And I've tried out quite a few different ones. Get an enclosure with an exhaust fan. The smoke is bad enough, but some materials, MDF and plywood among others, they have glues and things inside them that could and probably are toxic. Also, you're going to need to invest in a good honeycomb platform. These little or big pieces of corrugated metal, they're a huge safety feature. Now, after those must-haves, I would recommend you invest in an air assist, but it's not a necessity. It will help you, though, get better looking cuts and engravings with a lot less cleanup. It essentially just blows air across the head of the laser, blowing that thick smoke away just as fast as it appears. When AlgoLaser reached out to me about this new DIY kit, I have to admit to being a little hesitant. Is this kit perfect? No. Some of the controls on the machine could be tweaked to make it a little easier, and I'd love to have control over what goes where on it. The app is cool and all, but I probably won't use it as much since Lightburn has a lot more control. But for a beginner, man, that app is really nice. And like I said before, the price is great, especially if you only get the laser machine by itself. Yes, you can get a lot of those add-ons elsewhere, but a number of the ones that they have are controlled by the whole system right here. It's worth looking at those extra add-on kits before you make a decision. It's kind of like getting a Bamboo A1 and trying to decide, should I get the AMS Lite combo or wait and pick it up later? All right, so after playing with this machine, honestly, I'm glad I did it. I have had more fun in the past week with this laser than I've had in 6 months with my other ones.
Can't decide if this will be considered feisty or crazy.
But I wouldn't have done this review if I couldn't get two things. First, that I'd be able to make my own honest opinion to you, good or bad. And second, if I could make it worthwhile to my viewers. So, that last one, I asked for the moon. Not only did I want a discount code for all of you, but I decided to go ahead and be bold and ask for a free MK2 to give away. Never know what's going to happen if you don't ask, right? Well, I didn't expect much, at least on the free machine. I was wrong. Wow. They agreed to send one of you a free AlgoLaser 10-watt DIY kit, MK2 diode laser engraver. Can you believe that? They also stepped up and they're giving all of you a discount code for $60 off your purchase of an MK2. But just like every other giveaway, there's rules and hoops. I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. So here it is for you. The contest is going to run from the launch of this video until 2 weeks past the September 25th launch of the AlgoLaser DIY kit MK2 diode laser engraver. And that means you have until October 9th to get everything done. What to do? Well, it's really simple and easy, and you've probably already done half of it. There's just 4 simple things I want you to do. 1, like this video. 2, subscribe to my channel. 3, leave a post here that has the name AlgoLaser somewhere in the comment. And don't just post the name, you have to leave an actual comment. Also, you have to spell it right for the program to pick it up, and that's AlgoLaser, all one word, with correct capitalization. Now, I do want to note that bad or derogatory comments, they're just going to be deleted. And the 4th step, follow or join at least one of the official Facebook pages for AlgoLaser, which I'm going to post down in the description. See? Simple. Then, using the best computing power I could buy recently, everyone that meets that criteria, they're going to be placed in a randomizer and we'll pick a winner. And then I'm going to contact the winner here on this video in the comments and let you all know who won. So make sure you keep an eye on this video to see if you're the winner. But wait, that's not all.
More stuff?
Yeah.
How much is there?
There's more.
For everybody, even the winner, you can get that $60 discount just by buying the MK2 laser, any one of them, and enter in this super special discount code. Oh, and I almost forgot, if you win the laser engraver and you've already bought one, well, they're going to work with you to put a charge back on your order. Nice. Well, now, like I said, I really like this machine and think it's a great value. And yeah, they sent it to me for a review, but I told you I'm only going to do it if I could tell you my thoughts, good or bad. So how can a laser engraver help you with your own personal 3D print lab? Well, I know for me, I've enjoyed cutting and engraving everything, then making 3D prints to go along with it, and basically just having fun with all of it. I'm right now working on a video where I'm going to show off a lot of joint projects that you can find that go together with laser and 3D printers, so keep an eye out for that in the next few months. There's so much to do in our 3D print labs, and I hope this all gave you some new ideas and directions for 3D printing and more. Let's keep going, let's help each other out, be kind, have fun as we learn, create with lasers and 3D printers, and amaze.